How often do you hear anyone talk about Jimmy Choo today with the same excitement the brand once commanded? Almost never. And that silence says more than any headline ever could. There was a time when Jimmy Choo didn't just participate in luxury footwear, it defined it. The name carried weight. If you wanted visibility, credibility, and status, you wore a pair of Jimmy Choos. For years, the brand felt like a guarantee. Red carpets, Vogue editorials, royal appearances, every place that mattered. But momentum only lasts if the world around you doesn't change too fast. Fashion changed, ownership changed, and the high heel identity that once made Jimmy Choo unstoppable slowly turned into a limitation. So the question becomes unavoidable. How did Jimmy Choo rise this fast, and what pushed it into a slow, undeniable decline? Jimmy Choo's story doesn't begin anywhere near front rows or red carpets. It begins in Penang, Malaysia, in a family where shoemaking wasn't a dream, it was daily life. His father was a craftsman with strict standards. Precision wasn't optional. Skill was passed down early through repetition and discipline. Jimmy was only 11 years old when he made his first pair of shoes. Not for attention, not for fashion, just a child learning a trade. By the early 1980s, he made a decision that would quietly change everything. He moved to London. Jimmy didn't arrive as a prodigy. He arrived as an immigrant who had to work, study, and survive. He enrolled at Cordwainers Technical College, took whatever work he could find in workshops and factories, and saved relentlessly. Eventually, he afforded a space of his own. Not a boutique, a tiny workshop inside a converted hospital building in East London, the only thing he could afford. There, he made shoes by hand, one pair at a time. Slowly, a small but loyal group of clients formed. People who noticed the precision, the balance, the care. And then came the moment that changed everything. In 1988, Jimmy Choo received a full 8-page feature in Vogue. For a lone shoemaker working out of a modest space, this wasn't exposure. It was a launch pad. Vogue introduced his work to the fashion world, and suddenly the industry knew his name. But even that wasn't the biggest moment. Princess Diana became a client. And her support wasn't symbolic. She wore his designs repeatedly. One moment in particular sealed the legacy. In 1997, Diana stepped out in pale blue satin slingbacks by Jimmy Choo at the Swan Lake performance at the Royal Albert Hall. Elegant, modern, unforgettable. That kind of visibility can't be bought. Demand surged. And suddenly, Jimmy Choo could no longer do this alone. By the mid-1990s, something became clear. Jimmy Choo was a master craftsman. But craftsmanship alone doesn't build a global luxury empire. Orders were increasing, attention was growing, but scaling handmade shoes from a small London workshop wasn't realistic. The brand needed structure, it needed strategy, it needed business. That's when Tamara Mellon entered the story. Tamara Mellon wasn't a designer. She was a fashion editor at British Vogue, deeply connected, commercially sharp, and instinctively aware of what the luxury market wanted next. She saw something in Jimmy's shoes that went beyond craftsmanship. She saw scale. In 1996, Jimmy Choo and Tamara Mellon officially founded the Jimmy Choo brand. It was a clear division of roles. Jimmy focused on design and craftsmanship. Tamara focused on brand, growth, and visibility. Together, they formed a perfect early balance. One of the first major decisions was production. Hand-making every shoe in London wasn't sustainable. So production shifted to Italy, the global heart of luxury footwear. This move changed everything. Italian factories allowed higher volume without sacrificing the elegance that made Jimmy Choo special. The shoes retained their slim silhouettes, precise arches, and sensual lines. But now they could be produced for a global audience. Jimmy Choo was no longer just a shoemaker. It was becoming a brand. The late 1990s were explosive. Jimmy Choo shoes appeared everywhere that mattered. Film premieres, fashion weeks, award ceremonies, Hollywood took notice. Stylists loved the shoes because they photographed beautifully. Celebrities loved them because they were elegant without feeling dated. A Jimmy Choo heel didn't overpower the outfit. It completed it. And then pop culture stepped in. In 2000, a single line changed the trajectory of the brand forever. I lost my Choo. Spoken casually on Sex and the City, but the impact was anything but casual. That one sentence did what millions in advertising never could. It made Jimmy Choo a household name. Overnight, the brand became synonymous with aspiration, femininity, and modern luxury. Women didn't just want the shoes, they wanted the feeling. The idea that wearing the right heels could change how the world treated you. Sales exploded, demand skyrocketed, waiting lists formed. Jimmy Choo became the dream shoe. With demand soaring, the next move felt inevitable. Expansion. More boutiques, more collections, more markets. The brand moved quickly, perhaps too quickly. But at the time, it didn't feel risky. It felt unstoppable. Jimmy Choo had done what very few brands ever manage. It had crossed from fashion into culture. But here's the part no one noticed back then. The seeds of decline were already being planted. As Jimmy Choo's popularity surged, something inevitable happened. Money entered the conversation. Not creative money, not patient money, private equity money. In the early 2000s, investment firms began circling the brand. To them, Jimmy Choo wasn't just a luxury label, it was an asset. A fast-growing, globally recognizable asset with massive upside. In 2001, Equinox Luxury Holdings acquired a majority stake in Jimmy Choo, and that moment quietly changed the brand's trajectory. Private equity doesn't think in decades, it thinks in exits, growth targets, revenue curves, market expansion. Craftsmanship doesn't disappear overnight, it gets deprioritized. Boutiques multiplied. Cities that had never heard of Jimmy Choo suddenly had stores. Accessories expanded beyond shoes. Handbags, small leather goods, seasonal capsules. Everything became about reach. At first, customers didn't complain. Why would they? The shoes were still beautiful, but internally, tension was building. Jimmy Choo himself was becoming less involved in day-to-day design decisions. That's common in luxury once scale takes over. The founder becomes a name. The brand becomes a machine. In 2001, Jimmy Choo sold his remaining stake and officially stepped away. The brand kept his name, but it lost his hands. By the mid-2000s, Jimmy Choo had reached a dangerous place. It had become predictable. Every award season, the same silhouettes appeared, same heel heights, same glamorous language. Predictability is comforting in basics. It's deadly in luxury. What once felt aspirational began to feel routine. Stylists moved on. Fashion editors looked elsewhere. New brands were emerging, edgier, fresher, more experimental. Jimmy Choo still looked beautiful, but it no longer felt exciting. As ownership changed hands again, the pressure intensified. More stores, more collections, more licensing. The brand chased growth instead of guarding desire. That's the line luxury can't cross safely. Outlet presence expanded. Discounting became more common. The dream shoe started appearing in places it never should have. Once customers expect sales, exclusivity evaporates. Here's the part most people missed. Jimmy Choo didn't crash. It softened. The shoes were still worn, still elegant, still well-made, but they no longer symbolized arrival. They symbolized familiarity. And familiarity is dangerous in fashion. By the late 2000s, Jimmy Choo was no longer the shoe you dreamed about. It was the shoe you expected. And that subtle shift is often irreversible. By the late 2010s, Jimmy Choo needed help. Not creative help, financial help. The brand was still recognizable, still respected, but growth had slowed and excitement was fading. That's when Capri Holdings entered the picture. In 2017, Capri Holdings acquired Jimmy Choo in a deal worth over $1 billion. On paper, this looked like a lifeline. Capri promised scale, stability, and a renewed push toward relevance. The message was clear. Jimmy Choo was about to be reborn. After the acquisition, the strategy shifted. Less dependence on stilettos, more focus on handbags, sneakers, and everyday luxury. The idea made sense. Heels alone can't carry a modern brand anymore. The market had changed. Comfort was becoming fashionable. Streetwear was redefining luxury, and younger buyers wanted versatility, not fantasy. Jimmy Choo tried to adapt. Flatter shoes appeared, sneakers entered the lineup, handbags became more prominent. But something felt off. The problem wasn't effort, it was timing. Jimmy Choo was trying to reinvent itself in a market that had already moved on. While other brands built new identities from the ground up, Jimmy Choo was trying to retrofit an old one. To Gen Z, the brand felt dated. To longtime customers, it felt diluted. That's the worst place to be. Too old for the new audience, too unfamiliar for the loyal one. And the numbers reflected it. Sales growth remained uneven. Handbags never became category leaders. Shoes no longer dominated red carpets the way they once did. Jimmy Choo wasn't failing, but it wasn't winning either. Today, Jimmy Choo occupies an uncomfortable space. It's still a luxury brand, still well-made, still elegant, but it's no longer aspirational in the way it once was. You don't hear people say, "I can't wait to own my first pair of Jimmy Choos." That dream is faded. The brand survives on recognition, not obsession. And in luxury, obsession is everything. Without it, you're just another nice option. Jimmy Choo's story isn't about failure. It's about timing. About what happens when a brand rises faster than it can evolve. About how culture moves, whether you're ready or not. Jimmy Choo didn't lose quality. It lost momentum. And momentum is harder to rebuild than craftsmanship. So when you look at Jimmy Choo today, you're not looking at a fallen brand. You're looking at a reminder. That luxury isn't permanent. That relevance must be earned again and again, and that no amount of heritage can protect you from change. Fashion doesn't wait, and it doesn't forgive comfort. Jimmy Choo once defined an era. Now it lives as a memory of one. If you enjoy deep, honest breakdowns like this, stories that go beyond hype and headlines, make sure you subscribe.